Peace, Love, Liberty Radio version 4.0. Prepare for launch.
OTC is go.
Packetbus is go.
PTC is go.
LPS is go.
Houston flight is go.
Molotov.
STM is go.
Safety-Con is go.
STE is go.
LRD is go.
SRO is go.
CDI is go.
Launch Director, NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
99, proceeded, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Right away, Houston.
Consequences so severe, so pull your trigger quickly, dear. Our patriots are acting up, let's punish them with fear. Hey, hey!
Hey, welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. So, this is the Ask Me Anything episode, and be forewarned that the topics discussed in this episode might be a little sensitive in nature, so if you have children in the room and you don't want them to hear things of a intimate nature, shall we say, you might want to pause the podcast, scurry them along, and then after they are out of the room or out of ear reach, then you can restart the podcast. And I will do my best to not be explicit in this episode because I do want the show to remain available on iHeartRadio. And, you know, I do my best to be, radio friendly. But I have a question this week that is going to cause me to sort of walk up to the line and possibly put my toe across it ever so delicately, possibly push the envelope a little bit. And as you know, on the Ask Me Anythings, I will answer any question. I did a show about B-sex a good while back, and, well, this is kind of similar. There's a B in the question, and it definitely deals with sex. The question is, should BDSM be illegal? Now, I could just jump in and answer the question by saying no, but that's not really any fun, is it? No, it's not. So, really, I want to sort of do a explainer sort of thing to let people that might not be familiar with, or they might have heard the term BDSM but not really know exactly what it is. Lucky for you and I, well, more so lucky for you, there is a website called whatisbdsm.com, and it's sort of a Q&A about what is BDSM. So I will go through this before explaining why I say that no, BDSM should not be illegal. And let me just first, again, before giving this definition, or it's really a very long definition, sort of a Q&A, FAQ on what is BDSM, there's really 3 words to describe the rules for BDSM: safe, sane, consensual, with the key word being consensual. If consent for any sexual encounter, whether it be, what's called vanilla sex, or whether it's something where toys or whips or anything else are involved, if consent is ever removed, then that encounter is then rape. Keep that in mind. So, what is BDSM? Well, the letters BDSM all stand for a different word. The B stands for bondage. The D, I've heard both domination and discipline. Whatisbdsm.com says discipline. The S is for sadism. The M is for masochism. The first set of letters, they say B and D, stand for bondage and discipline. If you have ever put a blindfold on a partner or been blindfolded by a partner, tied their hands with a scarf, given a spanking to someone who has been naughty, then you have dabbled in B and D. Bondage is, of course, the use of restraints to enhance pleasure. Discipline is the use of rules or punishment to control or reward behavior in a sexual context. Either can be as innocuous as mild foreplay, a prelude to less exotic encounters, or it can be an activity in its own right. For many, B&D involves more than just physical sensation. It can be a gateway to deep emotional experience or self-discovery. Bondage may take the form of token restraint, or it may involve a complex array of equipment designed for arcane purposes: arm binders, spreader bars, cuffs, breath restrictors, elaborate rope arrangements, and much more. Discipline, too, can be a forum for the inventive gadget enthusiast. Many of the devices used for the punishment of a wayward partner rival bondage gear in their complexity and ingenuity, but it can also be as simple and unadorned as a list of rules for a partner's conduct. Of course, a wily dominant may deliberately set rules that cannot be obeyed in order to make punishment inevitable. But it's just as likely that a wily submissive might disobey the rules on purpose. Rules here, more than anywhere else, are made to be broken. D and S, and yes, all of the letters, the B, D, S, and M, they all fit in various combinations. The D and S, or D/S, stands for domination and submission. Many of its devotees like to play games with capitalization in order to put a flourish on the power relationship. So when it's D/S, the S is lowercase to signify that the person is submissive. It's the most purely emotional of the concepts of BDSM. People in the DS relationship may not have a physical interaction at all, and in some cases may never even meet, while DS relationships can often contain aspects of both B&D and S&M when they are physical. They can also be conducted at long distance, over the phone, instant messenger, or even by mail. Many would say that DS is the most formal and ritualistic of the BDSM relationships, and these tend to be the ones that lend themselves best to long-term. If you've ever played out a fantasy that involved a boss and his secretary, or an experienced older person and a willing virgin, you were probably playing with some aspect of D and S while you did. There's more. And again, remember, keep sensitive ears out of reach of this episode. Until, of course, you're comfortable with them hearing it. This is Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. In 2115 New England, there are no borders, no states, and no regulations, yet never has a more peaceful and prosperous place existed. But Mr. Drake's security company has seen better days. Faced with the prospect of waning power, Mr. Drake intends to replace the anarchy of New England with a government. But at what cost? Will anybody care? And can anyone stop him? Anarchy in New England by Joe Jarvis is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry, online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Before I continue explaining BDSM, which is something when I started doing this show I never thought I would do on this show. But before I continue explaining, I've got a question for you. Are you fed up with the government running every aspect of your life? Okay, good. Are you listening to the Lava Flow podcast yet? You're not? Naughty girl, what is wrong with you? Go right now to thelavaflow.com/listen. The Lava Flow podcast, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Subscribe today using any podcatcher at thelavaflow.com/listen. Or just go back to sucking up to the government. the Lava Flow podcast, striking the root every episode. So let's get back into the answer of the question. And yes, I am purposely explaining all of this because, again, I could just answer the question of should BDSM be illegal by saying no. But I, on the one hand, want to clear up misconceptions or inform people because, again, a lot of people, they've heard the term and they think it's just people that, want to be violent and, somehow get off on being violent. And, there might be somebody that, practices BDSM because they're just a psychopath. But again, remember the 3 simple rules: safe, sane, consensual. If somebody is just violent for the sake of being violent, they're probably not going to be safe. They're definitely not sane. And at some point, something is going to stop being consensual. If at any point it stops being consensual, that is rape. If the person is not being safe or sane, then you're in an abusive relationship, whether it's a BDSM relationship or not. So, I've already explained the B and the D and the S. Now, what about the S and the M? Well, the S and the M, again, stand for sadism and masochism. It's the most physical of the 3 milieus, although it may involve emotional torture or humiliation as well. And it's one that you most likely got your impression of BDSM from when you saw it parodied in a mainstream movie. S&M is whips and chains, it's spanking, it's bruises and welts. It takes its name from the name of 2 European perverts of your Marquis de Sade and Leopold von Sacher-Masoch. Both men wrote extensively about the pleasure to be found in giving and receiving of pain as part of sexual pleasure, sadism, and masochism, respectively. If you've ever enjoyed pulling someone's hair, smacking their butt, or reveled in a sharp bite from a lover, you have unwittingly, or possibly very wittingly, taken part, at least tentatively, into S&M. S&M may be part of roleplay, used as part of either B and D or D and S relationships to further emotional power, or it may just be something you do because you like a little pain or you like it rough. In the context of the BDSM lifestyle, S&M is distinct from acts of sexual violence in that both parties ideally negotiate and agree to the degree of severity involved in the giving and receiving of pain. Physical S&M can be as specific as, I'm not going to read what they have here as far as the specifics, or it can be something like a light spanking, dripping wax on someone, or it can involve real torture. Again, as long as it is completely consensual. And that leads me to something else that I found where it is 15 unwritten rules for masters, or the D, the dominant, 15 unwritten rules for the dominant when dealing with their submissive. And again, communication is important in all relationships, not just the BDSM relationships. And this info here, the 15 unwritten rules, comes from a website that has all kinds of BDSM contracts and legal information on the legality of said contracts. And they preface their 15 rules here by saying, people tend to think that BDSM relationships revolve around people being abused, with only sociopaths and victims of child abuse partaking in the lifestyle. In fact, abuse of any kind is strictly forbidden and very much frowned upon. But unfortunately, like any other lifestyle, you will find jerks and losers in the lifestyle as well. It's very important for a master to not take advantage of the situation, and for the submissive to understand they have a right to stop it at any point if a line is crossed. BDSM is safe, sane, consensual. Complete and honest consent is crucial to a successful BDSM relationship, and I would say to any relationship. Complete and honest consent. Communication is important, and it's essential to have many conversations, many in-depth in-depth conversations with all parties involved. Every BDSM relationship will have their rules, but there are also some mainstream unwritten rules, unless the parties agree otherwise by written or verbal contract. So here are the 15 mostly unwritten rules about BDSM. And again, it's because of these rules that they say are unwritten, but I think should be explicitly written into a BDSM contract if a contract is written. It's because of these rules that I say no, government should not be involved. Again, because of consent. If consent is withdrawn at any time, then that becomes rape. It doesn't matter if it's vanilla or if it's, something involving bondage and whips. Rule number 1, again, these are the unwritten rules, but I believe they should most definitely be written. And again, they say unless specifically written into a contract that these are not part of the rules. These are the unwritten rules. Number 1, stepping over a hard limit is not acceptable under any circumstance, and I don't think that should ever be negotiated away. Number 2, subs and slaves are never allowed to be bought or sold. Completely agree. Number 3, and this is one of the only ones on this list that I think could possibly be agreed upon to be, written out. A master must never hit his submissive in the face for any reason. And I know some people that like to be slapped in the face. And, that's the only one of these 15 that I think could possibly be written out consensually. The rest definitely must, in my opinion, must be part of any BDSM contract. There's more here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. During the 2013 Porcupine Freedom Festival, Davy Barker presented an idea for a renegade psychological experiment. Since then, he has refined his idea and put his plan and research into writing. He explains, "We aim to show the world beyond a shadow of a doubt that power corrupts absolutely and corrupt authority deserves no obedience." Authoritarian Sociopathy is available from Amazon.com, all major bookstores, and now available as an audiobook. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, Spendabit, and Amazon at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry, online at fppradio.com.
Before I get back into the 15 unwritten rules, again, I think they should most definitely be written as part of any BDSM agreement. But according to BDSM contracts, these are largely unwritten. But before I get back into those, I want to make sure that I tell you about a website you can go to where they actually have things written on there for you, and you can click on stuff and you can buy stuff consensually, of course, and you can use Bitcoin. What is this wonderful website? Well, it's Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. You can go there. You can buy gold and silver, and you can use Bitcoin to do it. Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been in business selling precious metals like gold and silver since 1977, and they currently take Bitcoin for all precious metal orders and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760. That's 800-874-9760. Or visit them online at rrbi.co. That's rrbi.co. Let me jump back into the 15 unwritten rules for masters when dealing with their submissive in a BDSM relationship. And again, BDSM contract says that some of these could wind up being specifically opted out of in a verbal or written contract. I personally think that all of these should be written into the contract if such a contract exists. And I'll go back over, starting with number 1. Stepping over a hard limit is not acceptable under any circumstance. Number 2, subs and slaves are never to be bought or sold. A master or a dominant must never hit a submissive in the face for any reason. Number 4, the punishment must fit the crime. Number 5, and this one is very important, never leave the submissive unattended, as accidents can happen. Again, if you're leaving someone and they're tied up, then that's not safe or sane, and I would say that consent has probably been removed at that point. But again, there's, it's always important to have that safe word so that the submissive can end the encounter at any time. Number 6, never administer punishment, or rather, after administering punishment, the master or the dom must follow up with tenderness for the sub. As a master, you must understand that you are not always right. Even you are human. Since sub is not the same as slave, the sub has the right to a separate life outside of the BDSM that you cannot control. Number 9, you must ensure that your sub stays healthy and that none of your demands put their health in jeopardy. Again, this is all, it should be very clear as part of the safe, sane, consensual, but sometimes the obvious must need to be written down. Number 10, a master cannot change the rules without consent of the sub. And again, this is rather obvious. But again, there are people that don't really understand what BDSM is. That's why I'm going through all of this. Number 11, required from you towards your sub. It seems as though something is missing in that sentence. Number 12, you must give rewards when earned. Most people will think that the BDSM, it's all about just punish the sub when they do something wrong. But when they do something right, you give them rewards. You let them, go buy a new outfit, or you take them to go buy a new outfit. You reward them in some kind of way, the same way that if your child does something outstanding, you reward them in some kind of way. So it's not all about punishment. There's also rewards. Number 13, if your sub wants to leave, you must let them go. Again, safe, sane, consensual. If they say, I am done with this relationship, let them go. If you don't let them go, then you're an abuser, and, well, that's neither safe, sane, nor consensual. Number 14, the sub's children are off limits for everything, including play and punishment. Again, this seems rather obvious. Number 15, you must train your sub properly and individually. Each one will be different, so you must be able to adapt your your teaching style. These are some of the basic unwritten rules they write that masters must follow. Having a sub gives the master or the dom much less power than vanilla people realize. Both parties should be enjoying their roles in the BDSM lifestyle. And as the sub, it's your job to make sure you are doing your part. Although the dom may retain the title, the power is still 50-50 with the sub. Always make sure that whatever you do is safe, sane, consensual. Negotiating rights and responsibilities from the outset is important. Take time to draw up a contract very thoroughly. You don't need to have anything in writing as long as both parties understand what is expected. And again, I think that if you are going to have a contract, these unwritten rules should definitely be written into the contract just so there is no ambiguity. And they finish by saying, if you're a sub reading this or hearing me read this to you, and you think you're in an abusive relationship instead of a DS relationship, you need to leave immediately. If your dom is becoming possessive, jealous, and starts to make threats outside of your sessions, that is a clear sign they could be an abuser. BDSM is supposed to be fun and fulfilling, not abusive and crazy. So, let me re-answer the question here in the closing moments of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
It is the year 91,001 BCE. Witness humanity's origins in Hyperchronius, a classic role-playing game for Windows PCs with a story like no other game before. A liberty-oriented experience that is not to be missed. Go to zog.ninja to get your copy of Hyperchronius today. Use the code FPP to get $1 off. Hyperchronius, zog.ninja, code FPP.
You can support FPP Radio by joining the Fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and Numery supporters. Fans help FPP afford to produce more original content. You can join the Fans program for as little as $3 per month through Patreon and get perks like ad-free versions of FPP Radio News and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com. That's fans.fppradio.com.
Hi, I'm Nick Hazelton from the Anarcho-Yakutalism podcast, and you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. We are in the closing moments, and as always, I hope that this was enlightening and entertaining. I always wind up enjoying doing the Ask Me Anythings, especially when there are very interesting questions such as this one. And again, I could have just read the 5-word question or 4-word question, should BDSM be illegal? I could have just read that and said no. But again, I wanted to make sure that people understood exactly what the question entailed. What exactly is BDSM? What's B and D? What's S and M? What's D and S? And, in order to do that, I did have to sort of explain a lot of stuff. And again, hopefully you had any little ones that you didn't want hearing about this out of the room. So again, let me just one last time answer the question. Should BDSM be illegal? No. Because everything should be safe, sane, and consensual. If it's not safe, don't do it. If it's not sane, don't do it. If it's consensual, absolutely 150 billion% don't do it. As long as you're following those 3 rules in any relationship, whether there's, eating of salad in the same room, whether you're just talking to somebody or whether you're being intimate with them, you should always follow those 3 rules: safe, sane, consensual. If at any point the relationship becomes unsafe, becomes unsane, and yes, unsane is the word I'm meaning to use here, or it becomes not consensual, then get out of that interaction, get out of that relationship. Should BDSM be illegal? No. Governments should not be involved in the consensual relationships of people. So that is the show for today. And again, I might do a show on Friday. I'm not entirely positive. I'm heading down south for my 20-year high school reunion this weekend, and I'll be doing some traveling on Wednesday, which is actually when you're hearing this, but I'm recording it the day before. But, the magic of radio and internet, you didn't know that until I just told you. So I'll be traveling Wednesday to Atlanta. I'll be traveling from Atlanta to Birmingham on Friday, so I may or may not get a show done on Friday. My 20-year reunion is Saturday, and Monday I will get a show done before I head to the airport because I'm not flying back until the evening. So there will be a show on Monday. And don't forget, every Wednesday I answer your questions. Send those over AMA@FPPradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copyheart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas, which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.